What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you another Blue Eyes variant update. This time it is the turn of the colossal Blue Eyes Chaos Max. Now this is a ritual style deck for the Blue Eyes. I've also designed it to be a bit more OTK because our core card is going to be the Chaos Max, and we're still utilizing as much of the structure deck as possible to get you the best outcome. I've kept budget in mind when I've put this together, so I'll talk you through some of the expensive upgrades because you can very easily play the Primer engine in this version. You can also go down the Crimson Dragon route, so I'll show you the budget and cheaper alternatives because in my opinion, if you're going to be putting together a Blue Eyes Chaos Max build, you're probably going to be doing it more out of nostalgia and more out of fun to be an OTK alternative. The best thing about this particular version now with all of the new support is it can still do some great stuff going first as well. So if your opponent tries to hoodwink you and make you go first during game 2, you are still naturally prepared for it as well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I've got a couple more Blue Eyes variants to show you, and I'm trying to give you as many as possible, so no matter what type of player you are, there is a Blue Eyes variant out there for you, and then we'll start moving back into our normal scheduled content. So diving headfirst into the profile, starting off with the ritual monsters themselves, we are playing two Blue Eyes Chaos Max. Now you can max this card out and play it free if you want to. However, just through the natural ways of being able to search in this deck, you have a lot more consistent routes to get to this card. The reason I've not maxed it out is I am also playing one of the baby Blue Eyes Chaos Dragons, just because you do have the ability to ritual summon twice in the same turn, which will give you the ability to shift all of your opponent's monsters to defense, reduce them to 0, and then obviously do double piercing off of the back of a Chaos Max. This is still going to be your ideal win con because the idea is with some of our board breaking options that I've chosen for this deck, you're going to be putting your opponent's cards into defense anyway, and then all you need to do is get enough damage on the board, and that will hopefully lead you to the OTK completion. But you still can have the ability to utilize Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon in order to get you that guarantee because we're not playing the incantations in this version. You can play the incantation if you want to, but I feel you just lose so much space in the main deck. The only other kind of cards that I would highly consider, because all of the Sage cards are like zeros, especially with your Maiden of White, they're both being 0/0, is if you have the ability to play something like a creature swap or even a way to give your opponent the Maiden of White, that could be very, very helpful for you as well to help you guarantee the OTK. Then for the Blue Eyes themselves, you are playing two Blue Eyes White Dragon, followed up by the rest of the dragons being one of the Jet Dragon as your defensive float option as well, and then one of the Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon. Now this is the more important card for this particular version because on special summon, you get to add a ritual spell or a polymerization. So in this version, when you are going to be utilizing your Sage with Eyes of Blue and turning an effect monster into a Blue Eyes monster, you're going to want to make sure you're bringing out the Abyss Dragon, as that will get you your ritual spell, which is very easy to get a hold of. The only other ways, or the more direct ways you're going to get into your Chaos Max will be, as a preview, your Bingo Machine Go. And of course you can count Melody of the Awakening Dragon as well. The reason I'm not, preview again, playing Melody of the Awakening Dragon in this deck is because it's not directly searchable as it isn't a Blue Eyes card. But when you're looking at how am I going to get myself to either the Chaos Max and or the Ritual Spell, well, that's where cards like Sage of Eyes of Blue come into play, your Maiden, because your Maiden leads you to your True Light, and then your True Light can lead you to the Wishes, which can lead you to Bingo Machine, or it can just directly lead you to Bingo Machine. So the benefit of something like that is if you play the combo out correctly, you have that ability to loop everything back around in order to get you back a Sage, add it back to the hand off of the back of a Master as your second normal summon, and then that gives you the ability to get the Abyss Dragon to the board. You would have very easily got your Blue Eyes to the graveyard at this particular point as well because it's so much easier to do so with the Sage. And again, that's also the reason we're not playing the Advanced Ritual Art, because the Advanced Ritual Art, when you're not playing something like a Manju or a Senju in this particular build, which we're not doing, because you want to be able to focus on your Spellcasters or Dragons, and sadly there isn't a level 4 or lower Spellcaster or Dragon that can search out a Ritual Spell yet, which would have been really kind of cool if we got that in this Blue Eye structure deck, because then it would have lent more into the Chaos Max option. But what you want to be doing is you want to be using Sage as your first normal summon to get you to your Maiden as your standard play, or of course you can get into a Master, and then you're going to work your way from there, because your Sage in that particular theory of play will lead you to your Ritual Spell by getting you to the Abyss Dragon, and then all you need to do is get to your Chaos Max, which you can get off the back of Bingo Machine Go, which again comes off the back of your Wishes. Speaking of which, triple Wishes for Eyes of Blue and triple Bingo Machine Go. Of course, because this is a Go second version, if you wanted to increase its consistency, you could very easily pump Fluoroses in here. You could put Triple Tactics Frost in here as well. I've decided to stay away from that just because, like I said, I want to make this as budget and as cheap as cheerful as possible, because I feel if you're going to be building a Blue Eyes Chaos Max deck, you're going to want to be going down more of a budget option. You shouldn't really be spending hundreds of pounds into it unless you already have those particular cards, and then you'd just be going, you know what, I fancy playing an OTK version of Blue Eyes rather than the standard route that I'm seeing a lot of people go right now. I'm going to switch it up. The other best thing about a deck like this is you can really catch your opponent off guard. Because the ritual engine is relatively quite small, you could sub out most of it for a go first engine, something like the Buster Blader engine, something like the Invoked engine, if you wanted to, going into game 2 or 3 and really catch your opponent off guard. Because they're like, right, they're going to go second, I'm going to put in all my I'm going to put in all my floodgate cards, and you just go, cool, Buster Blader combo, lock you out the extra deck, and they're like, what the hell just happened? So it's very easy to do, and that's what I really love about Blue Eyes is from the structure deck, you can build a core structure of like 30 cards, and then it gives you a 10 card engine that you can constantly just keep swapping around as you see fit. Like the Invoked engine in the main deck is 9 cards. The Buster Blader engine can be anywhere from 7 to 9 cards as well, and then of course you do have the Primite engine on top of that. So you've got loads of different things you can just swap in and swap out until you get the fit that works for you. We're then of course playing 2 Chaos Form. Now this is our ideal ritual spell. Well, it's our only ritual spell, but keep in mind you can also use the graveyard effect of Majesty to perform a ritual summon. But the idea is that Chaos Form is the one you want to focus on because it is searchable as it lists Blue Eyes White Dragon in its text. And on top of that, it lets you banish the Blue Eyes from the graveyard or tribute monsters from the hand that equal the level of the Chaos Max you're trying to get to, which is really easy to do. The idea behind this is because we're sending our Blue Eyes from deck to the grave a lot easier now, it means you don't need to rely on the advanced ritual art. And as I mentioned previously, because we're not playing Manju or Senju, as they are fairies, annoyingly, you're not able to directly link them off and then go into the Blue Eyes Link monster. So where your normal combo from your start of Sage working its way through will give you 2 normal summons, being Master, as I've mentioned, leading you to Abyss. If you were to go for Senju or Manju, yes, you get the 1 card that you're missing, but that's it. That's your 1 normal summon. Nothing more can really be done with it, and it kind of makes it a little bit trickier to do. Then, of course, for the 1s, we've got the 1 Mausoleum, the 1 Raw, 1 True Light, and, of course, the 1 Majesty. Moving on to the hand traps. Now, I went with a lot less of a hand trap count on this one, and I went with more board breakers. So, triple Ash Blossom, double Effect Veiler, and triple Imperm. Of course, all in the structure deck, followed up by the 1 Call by the Grave. And then the final cards I've chosen to take out. So, I took out Nibiru, as I felt that more players are easier to play around Nibiru than they are able to play around Book of Eclipse. Now, the big benefit of Book of Eclipse is it's actually a really good meta call right now. Obviously, not so great going second against Malice. So if your local environment is more Malice, you can very easily consider something like a Ultimate Slayer. You can also consider stuff like Spellbound as an option as your side deck, just to kind of stop your opponent climbing. But the idea is that against something like a Ryzeal matchup, you can activate Book of Eclipse, flip all of them face down to defense, and then that's where your Chaos Match just comes storming in and goes, cool, going to punch that card that's face down defense, do double piercing damage, and then you're going to have more stronger cards on the board that can just keep punching through the rest of them. Other ways to kind of help you negate as well as turn the board off is free Forbidden Droplet, because the idea is if I activate Book of Eclipse and then they chain a monster effect Light Detonator to try and destroy it, I can just go Droplet, send the Eclipse, plus a monster so that they can't chain again off the back of that detonator, and then negate the detonator and move from there. You can play any other board breaks if you want to. I just quite like the idea of the quick plays, as that gives me the benefit that if my opponent does surprise me and decides to go, they decide to go second, I can still set the droplets or the Book of Eclipses and still counter them as they try to build up the board. And also going first, if I just naturally decided to go first in game 2, rather than having to side all of these out that can be more effective for me game 2 or game 3, I can still sit on these and set them and then stop my Malice opponent building their board. Because as long as I don't get that Malice monster off the board, like if they just go normal summon Dormouse and I go, okay, cool, Book of Eclipse, flip it face down, if they can't get rid of it off that board, they can't Bestial, they can't build their board, they just sat with a Malice monster in defense, and all of the Malice monsters are relatively quite weak. And because they're face down, they can't be tributed as cost because you need to tribute a face-up Malice monster. So that can give you a really kind of cool option against them as well. As I mentioned throughout the profile though, I do feel that if you're going to be putting this deck together, you're either going to be putting it together like this to go, you know what, I'm just going to play no matter what. I don't care what my local environment is. I want to specifically play this particular type of build. Or you're going to adapt it to that particular meta and the environment you're taking it to and make some dedicated choices depending on your environment. Moving into the extra deck, so starting off with the synchros, of course, we do play the 2 Blue Eyes Spirit Dragons, and then the target the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon can go into will be a Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon as your defensive option, But then as your aggressive option, you can go into a Michael the Arch Lightsworn. The reason you would do this is because we're going back to the old school play of Spirit Dragon during your turn, tag out into a level 7 synchro, whether it be Michael to deal with a card by paying 1,000 life points, or the Lightstorm Dragon to pop back row, and then normal summon a level 1 tuner, and then synchro off your Michael to get you into a Crystal Wing. So this will then give you the ability to kind of work your way further forward. The big issue with the Lightstorm Dragon is it is a level 9, so you're not going to be able to synchro that off or link it off any higher. Well, you can link it off, sorry, but you can't synchro it off any higher unless you're going to be playing something like a Chaos Angel. And if you want to do that, again, your budget changes. But the idea behind both of these cards is this can deal with, I believe it's just any card. Yeah, target one card in the field and banish it. So that could be very helpful for you just to clear out anything. And then this specifically will deal with floodgates or back row. So you're kind of getting that balance of going second, but having direct outs to whatever your opponent might be playing in the form of the extra deck. And then, of course, you do have the one Azurize, because, again, if you need to go into the grind state, you want to make sure that if you were to do 2 Spirit Dragons during your turn, that you could summon out an Azurize to protect your ultimate. But then it really kind of comes down to it at the end of the day. If you have Crimson Dragon, then your Crimson Dragon becomes your, your Stardust Divine Dragon becomes your Azurize. And then you could swap out something like a Lightstorm Dragon or your Michael to become Crimson Dragon. Because then the idea is that during the opponent's battle phase, and this is where you're going to get a bit more aggression on the board, which I really kind of like as well, is you could summon out both Spirit Dragons, attack with one Spirit Dragon, tag it out, go into the ultimate. Of course, these come in defense to these kind of attack, but then you would attack with this Spirit Dragon, still in the battle phase, tag this out, get your Crimson Dragon. Your Crimson Dragon would then target the ultimateness and then spin the Crimson Dragon back, or return the Crimson Dragon back to the extra deck for the Stardust Divine Dragon, which then comes in an attack, which can be a 4k attack to your opponent's life points. So that's kind of the more expensive upgrades, but to try and keep everything cheap and cheerful, of course, instead of the Lightstorm Dragon, if you did want to play another level 7, is you can actually go for the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, which will give you a bounce of a monster. So you've got a banish of a back row if you want to do it that way, and then you've got a bounce of a monster, which can be quite helpful for you as well. So it really is down to personal preference on what you want to go for. But I just like the option of going, right, this will threaten multiple back row, this will threaten any card. For the fusions, still got Tyrant, like being able to upgrade your Blue Eyes into a Tyrant, and then Tyrant goes, cool, I've Book of Eclipsed everything, I can attack with Chaos Max where it's going to get the most effect of double battle damage, and then I can just go, cool, Tyrant clear off the next one, Tyrant clear off the last one, recycle the trap cards if I need to, if I've used it as like discard fodder or send fodder off the back of Forbidden Droplet, and then if I just add another Blue Eyes to the board, that's 3k direct. So the idea is that with your Chaos Max, you're making sure you're doing the piercing damage. With the Tyrant, you're clearing off the rest of the monsters, and then anything else you've been able to add to that board will push in for the OTK. Then, of course, you've got the Neo. This is just obviously the card you equipped with the wishes to your Blue Eyes to then go into the Tyrant. For the links, of course, you've got your 2 spirits. Love this card so much right now. And, of course, the Hieratic Seals. Again, this is just a fallback that if you can't complete the OTK, you can sit on a Seals, which can still cause issues for your opponent. For the XYZs, we've got the Monster Negator in the Galaxy Photon Lord, we've got the Spell Negator in the Hope Harbinger, and then of course we've got the Aggressor in the form of the Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon. Of course, there's another option, you can very easily add Dingirsu to this as well, and that gives you a non-target send and destruction protection, which can be another alternative for you. The idea when you're going to be making one of your rank 8s though is that you don't really want to leave Chaos Max on the board, as it's not really providing much to you apart from a card that just couldn't be targeted or destroyed. So it means your opponent's plays will be a little bit awkward, but they'll always try to work their way to out the card. So you could basically overlay that with any of your Blue Eyes to get you a Monster Negate, a Spell Negate, and a Tap Redirection. So it really is kind of up to you, and you would dictate what is going to be more beneficial for you. If you feel that leaving Chaos Max on the board is absolutely fine, then by all means do so. But if you feel it could be more used to go into a rank 8, you can do it that way as well. You still also have cards like your Abyss Dragon, which will help you do that. So that's pretty much it for the entire list. Before anyone asks me what a side deck looks like for this deck, it is relatively basic on what you'd be trying to put together. I'll see if I've got my demo side deck to the side, just so you kind of see how easy it is to pretty much put one together. So it's pretty much the same one that I have used on all of my Blue Eyes builds that have kept the budget in mind. Again, if your budget is a little bit more free, then you can pretty much add into whatever you want. So right now, I'm quite a fan of Solemn Strikes. So I'd be playing 3 Solemn Strikes. I just think they're really, really helpful. Even with this particular build, I feel that if anything, I could probably be made to go first. And that's what I'm saying. You could very easily, if you wanted to, sub in an entire Buster Blader engine or an entire Voked engine. If you were going to do an Invoked engine, you'd make sure you'd adapt the extra deck. Same with the Buster Blader engine, but with the Buster Bladers, you can play a lot less of them. You've also got Mischief of the Gnomes and, of course, not in my exact hand, but you've also got Mischief of the Gnome and Dimension Barrier. Definitely Artifact Lancier, definitely Drow and Lockbird, and then it really is up to you on what else you'd want to add. Something like a Harpy's Feather Duster to deal with the back row. You've also got Lightning Storm as options as well, which will pretty much help you clear it out. But you'd obviously only be allowed to play one Harpy's Feather Duster. Already mentioned I would be playing 3 Solemn Strikes. I'd also be playing 3 Drow and Lockbird, because I think this is a great card against Blue Eyes. 3 Artifact Lancier. So straight away that's your 9 out of 15. You're 10 out of 15, and you've got 5 more cards to play with. So you've got 2 Mischief of the Gnomes, and then 3 Nibiru if you want to. You can play, you can increase your Infect Veil account. You can go for Ghost Ogre. Really is up to you. But this is how just cheap and easy it is to put together an effective side deck, in my opinion, for metas, depending on where you're going and what you're facing. So again, adapt it to the environment, but this just gives you a baseline understanding of what you could be looking for. And that pretty much is it. If you do have any questions, as always, I'm more than happy to answer them, so just put them in the comments down below, and I'll try to respond to them as early as I possibly can, so you're not hanging around waiting for what could be a critical answer into basically maybe what version of Blue Eyes should you build, how you should test it, and what type of plays you can make with this. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. I do have some more variants to kind of bring you for Blue Eyes. I'm trying to cover as many as I can, and I'm also trying to consider budget when I'm putting them together, depending on the type of players that I feel would be playing it. Like at the end of the day, like I said, you can upgrade this by putting in a Primite engine. That just gives you more direct access to a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and of course it gives you recurred disruption against your opponent. But I feel that a player that is going to be putting a Chaos Max build together isn't going to be spending 200 odd pounds on a Primite engine. They're probably going to wait for the reprint, and then that will adapt from that point on. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.